Awesome. What is up? I am the alien scientist, and you are watching here day after Halloween. It is All Hallows Day, not All Hallows Eve. Super Chat is working. My monetization has been reinstated on my channel since it was taken off for the Bob Lazar stuff that I had posted a couple months back when that documentary by Jeremy Corbell came out. He apparently didn't like the criticism. He blocked me on Twitter and Facebook and filed copyright strikes against my channel, which got my monetization taken away. But it's back now, and I've agreed not to, post anybody's, work. Like, I posted very large sections of his film unedited, which I shouldn't have. I should have just done my own thing and commented on it. And I don't know. Anyways, I'm changing up the game. I'm not even caring about Bob Lazar anymore, man. That stuff, I'm so like beyond Element 115. So many people have woken up to Bob Lazar and other things. Tom Mahood's website is great. I keep referring many people to Tom Mahood's website. That's otherhand.org. For those of you, otherhand.org. And Tom Mahood, in case you didn't know, he's a PhD who he actually went back to school after doing a bunch of the Bob Lazar report. He got into a bunch of this stuff. He's always been into like the weird and unusual kind of science and stuff, kind of like me. And at some point, and I think he went back to college to get his PhD and was actually working with James Woodward on the Woodward effect. And which is related to some real classified research that was done by Lockheed Martin. So this is the big thing we're doing right now, and this is to combat TTSA. I just actually watched two different podcasts today from two of my favorite journalists in the field of ufology out there, who I'm going to give shout outs to right now. One is the Black Vault, John Greenwald. I called into John's show earlier today and got on air and asked a couple of questions and told him about some of my ideas and what we're doing here in Alien Scientists, teaming up with Hover Brothers and Falcon Space Program, as well as other space programs and other individuals out there who are an expanded part of this sort of network we're putting together to try to combat the vacuum or void of scientific disclosure in the people out there who are pushing, who allegedly in the forefront pushing everything forward with disclosure, supposedly. So one thing I want to point out, I posted this connection. I got pretty much raked over the coals for posting about this on Twitter the other day, but I talked about some of the connections between some of the people behind TTSA, particularly the Rockefeller initiative and that 1993 photo with all those groups of people. Where's that? Where the heck is that photo now? Let me find it on my... I might be able to find it in a second, but... in any case, I posted this photo, and it made a whole bunch of people angry. I started getting all these people from California and these Linda Moulton Howe fans attacking me for talking about the connection, which I thought they all accused me of starting this rumor, but I didn't start it. But there's a rumor that been going around in the UFO community for a while, and some of the more back sections of ufology. I guess it hasn't been talked about in a long time because of these sort of connections. But all these people are connected. I can't even find the post now. I don't know what happened to it. No, I don't see it. But anyways, oh, here's the picture right here. I'm staring right at it. Any case, it has Stephen Greer, Lawrence Rockefeller, Bob Bigelow, right next to Linda Moulton Howe, John Mack, and all these other interesting people in the photo. And anyways, I think that these guys are doing way better journalism work covering this story and talking about all these connections behind the scenes. Even Cal Cal Korf is wrote some stuff on this. He's on the TSA now, and he kind of got in the Billy Meyer ring and exposed all those people way back in the day. And now he's working with the Skeptical Inquirer and a couple of these other these skeptic groups, and he's been writing some interesting articles. What was it? Medium. It was Medium had an article by him. I thought it was Medium.com. Yeah. Yeah, so here it is. So here comes the judge, whistleblower to expose CIA UFO disinfo scientist, congressman in court. So he's been publishing all these articles too, kind of on this whole ring. I think these people are doing an excellent job. And what was the other one? Black Vault with John Greenwald, and then a bunch of people just here came from, of course, Dark Journalist. And Dark Journalist, we were just watching, and I was talking in this chat and commenting and sharing some stuff on there. He didn't have a call-in or anything like that, but he did ask one of my questions on the show and stuff. So he's onto this, that people are, you know, really starting to deeply question all this stuff, you know. And so really, I want to get down to where it gets down to, and the real key of this whole thing. Because one of the arguments I keep getting, and this is again going back to something I argued over on Twitter earlier today, that this guy right here, yeah, right here, this is the one. So this guy had posted. Disclosure 2020 is the name of this guy, Brandon Stern, and he's a U.S. Navy guy, apparently, a truth teller, so he says. He says, we, the American deep state, mastered gravity control in October 1954, so we have not needed jet engines, rockets, oil, gas, public utilities, surface roads, steamships, or internal combustion engines or of any sort for at least 65 years. Think about that. Now, that's something I've been thinking about and asking and digging into for quite a long time. And I think I replied, I said, I think you're off by about 40 or 50 years, honestly. And I want to talk about this a little bit, because lately I've been really, the past 2 weeks I haven't been put out a video, and I've been really busy working, you know, and aside from my day job, I've been working on putting this together. And this is like a culmination of, not everything's here, of course, so there's some things that I don't want to share because they shouldn't be shared, at least with the public, not yet. But this is all the public stuff that's out there, stuff that I've talked about, stuff that other people have talked about and gone over. And I wanted to compile the entire list of literally every anti-gravity study, every propulsion study, every warp drive study, anything related to any of this, going back to, again, that date that these people like Michael Schratt and Dolan and a lot of these other disclosure people on the web are talking about, the 1950s, you know? Did they figure it out in the 1950s? And coming up with I came up with a whole bunch of stuff on this and about the science of it. Prove me wrong. That's all I'm saying, is prove me wrong. I would love to be proved wrong. I would love someone to show me, like, oh, look, here's some 1950s study. This is the one you missed, and if you and watch, I do this and it works. I don't think it's out there. Someone would have made too much money on this, and there's no way that they could have kept it secret for that long. And if you really go through all the research like I did and put this kind of a list together, going back that far and all the more recent stuff, it kind of doesn't make any sense at all that they figured it out in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s or the 80s. Maybe the earliest I could give it credence to is the 1990s, because that's kind of a lot of weird stuff happened in the 1990s. You know, unrelated to this one's probably the most crucial, but again, this is incomplete. I think there's more of these Office of Technology Assessment reports year to year. I think that these are going to be key. Basically the technology summary reports that are given to the House of Representatives every year, and that's our people in government. That's like our top scientists giving our top government officials like what's out there. Again, it can be argued that the trillions of dollars, I mean, that go into these black programs and the scientists that are out there, there has to be stuff that's known by a very small number of people that's kept out of the public view for obvious reasons. Because think about some of this technology. I mean, try to wrap your head around, like, you know, what would happen if the wrong people got a hold of, you know, if North Korea got a hold of a warp drive and a nuke. You know, they could send a nuke anywhere. There's some bad people out there, and there's some reasons that we shouldn't completely share everything just yet. But there's enough here to put a lot of stuff together, man. I'm almost like, you know, it's almost making me like want to not do this and want to like take this stuff down sometimes as I'm thinking about it and put it in more and more perspective and learning more. As I put this list together, I'm like, holy shit, you know, I've found a ton of stuff, and I've done a ton of research in the past 15 years, man. It's been crazy, and I just want people out there who, again, this isn't everything, but again, if anyone has something, I'm sending this out to quite a number of people, and I'm trying to get the list to kind of expand. I'm going to put more stuff on here because there's definitely more papers by all these people. Another thing I wanted to do, and I'm starting to do, it's not, I haven't really put a lot of time or effort into it, is I saw this, they had this thing on Twitter, and I'm getting some good ideas off social media for how to go about this and do stuff. But one of these guys posted this thing about, let me not be able to find it now. I just scrolled past it earlier. I saw it. Oh, it was that one. It was this thing on the timeline and a list of all the scientists and a list of all the technologies on like on a graph. So graphically, I'm working on basically writing down a list of all the scientists, and I haven't got half of the people on here, but I wanted to go back to like all the old school people, you know, as far back as we can go, what kind of things they worked on and when, and how it's kind of advanced. It's very sparse going back to the 50s and finding anyone writing about this kind of stuff or talking about this stuff back in the 50s. Feynman gave a lecture, Richard Feynman, and it was called There's Plenty of Room at the Bottom. And it was about nanotechnology, and it was he was one of the first people to really talk about nanotechnology and really understand it and the implications of it, because that's what all this is now. It's if you're going to build a spaceship, if you're an alien, and we're talking about alien engineering, you're going to build things atom by atom. You're going to build them atomically. You're going to literally, it's tiny machines. It's all the stuff about secret machines. It should be about, you know, tiny machines, because nanotechnology is the real key kicker here. And there's so much more interesting stuff going on in science and within nanotechnology and photonics and quantum computers, that's going to build all this stuff, which will be eventually whatever you want to imagine that you know, these UFOs or these spaceships that are out there. If you want to believe in that stuff, this is it. You know what I mean? So I've been trying to connect these two fields. It's kind of hard. I've been going back and forth, writing with a couple of skeptics and professors and other people, kind of like talking about this stuff. You know what I mean? I talk to a lot of different people, including my old professors from college and stuff too. Try to like, and one of the debates one of the debates we've been having is people are saying all this great stuff and giving all this praise to TTSA and saying, you know, they've done so much for disclosure, and saying that they've even changed a lot of the mood of these these people joining the military, these young kids joining the military, talking about UFOs and stuff at the recruitment thing. And this guy is like, oh, the whole public is changing and their mindset's changing. So, and he argued that it's happening in the scientific community as well as a result of the work of TTSA. So I kind of scoffed at that, and I wanted to go say, oh, well, let me go look for evidence. Let me ask, my physics professor and some other physics professors if they've, seen an increase. Are there more people becoming physics majors now, and are more of those freshmen, asking you questions about this stuff? Has that happened? And he said, no, I haven't seen, anything like that. It hasn't been any noticeable increase from, years ago. Me, like I was probably one of the few people in the physics department that got interested in this stuff because of, UFOs and wanting to research anti-gravity. It wasn't too many other people that were in there that were interested in this kind of stuff, or that would care to talk about this kind of stuff openly, at least. So it's kind of crazy what's being said out there and the praise that's being given, but it's not true. It's simply not true. They haven't done much of anything. If they spent $22 million, and this was an older study that was done for the U.S. Air Force, it was referenced, and I think that where's the whole list of all the papers here? Here it is. It's over on the other window. No, it's not. In any case, anyone want to, Mark, you want to jump on here, or anyone, I see some people in the comments, if someone wants to jump on Skype or something. Oops, I just closed Skype. I didn't mean to do that. I have to go and take care of the baby. I can hear him crying in the other room, and I don't want to end the stream just yet until I've completed talking about a couple more things. So, yeah, ceramics are key and all that stuff. Dude, I wish I had someone else who could. I'm really going to have to step away for about 2 minutes. I hope you guys can bear with me. Why don't I put a video on or something? Let's put on this Feynman Plenty of Room at the bottom. You guys can check this out for a bit.
I want you to imagine for a second everything you buy for your house. Soap, shampoo, cleaners.
There we go.
Hey Mom, hey Dad.
Oh, come on with these stupid ads, man.
I decided on electrical
Monetization. I'll be right back.
How small can you make machinery? Okay, that's the subject. And because I've heard people around in the bath saying, tiny machines. What is he talking about, tiny machines? And I say to him, very small machines, and it doesn't work. I am talking about very small machines, okay? Now, but before I start on machines, I'd like to talk about very small writing first. Okay, how small can we make writing? Or say numbers.
All right, so there's a little bit about that. I wanted to, guys who just tuned in, I'm the alien scientist, and we're talking about like the real physics that are emerging that are going to lead to not things like teleportation, but things like warp drives and invisibility cloaks and the real technologies that are out there being developed. And what's kind of coming in the next year, I'd say, or year or two. And why TTSA is kind of not pushing the envelope on that disclosure. ATIP 38 studies, right? So ATIP, they've released all that's come out of this. That Steve Aftergood, FOIA, ATIP 38 studies. This is it. So I'll post this link in the chat so people have that as well. again, I keep bringing this up every episode, but really, this is, I kind of was intrigued by this when it first came out and first leaked earlier this year, in the video I did on it when it first came out. And the more I've been looking into this and just like thinking about it and analyzing it and mulling it over my head, I don't think it's gone deeply enough. This is really barely scratching the surface, and it's kind of confusing at some of the papers that they mixed in here, like the statistical Drake equation thing, and it just doesn't really make sense that this is a real study. This looks like really, if I were to look at this collection of papers from a scientific perspective, it's almost like they just threw together a bunch of stuff. It's literally, if I were to come up with a couple different things to kind of make it look like some, it's like this whole idea that they created this secret program because they weren't really the disclosure of the really inside government people, that they created this whole thing with Senator Reid and Bob Bigelow and these guys from this whole group of TTSA and stuff. They kind of created this ATIP. They created the ATIP program and the ASWAP program to later expose it with TTSA, and use it as a, I don't know, that's a theory anyway, but it's interesting, the stuff that's here, man, because if they spent $22 million on this ATIP study and this is all that they produced for science, I mean, look at what I've done in 2 weeks, with a very limited budget. I wouldn't call it my budget. I wouldn't call it a budget, because I did spend hours and hours and countless hours, tens of thousands of hours on research in the past 15 years to just know about all this stuff and where to find it all, and the physics, the core physics of how to put it all together and put the pieces together, which I don't really go into in too much detail here. I leave that up to talking about some of this stuff. So anyways, I want to talk about this, a couple of these. So the Office of Technology Assessment reports, which show the progression through the years. The kind of, some of these things are inside and with classified information. They're not released to the public. This is like government eyes only kind of things. These reports. So this would have some of the top scientists' kind of opinions, and if you read through some of them, they all talk about how this next revolution, even when they were aware of the metamaterials back, when they first named them, and they were first, back in the 90s, it was shortly after this that they first named the metamaterials and started coming up with a formula for them. So the idea that they've been building this stuff since the 1950s is or they mastered it in the 1950s, is kind of silly, because they didn't have the material science advances. Even if they did know it was metamaterials in some form from recovering it from, these secret programs. Say they recovered something at Roswell and analyzed it in a lab, Again, it's kind of pointless. It's semantics to debate any of this, because you're never going to get anywhere without real proof. So it's kind of it's more of a thought experiment for us to kind of weed our way through understanding, how and when they first figured it out, because there's a big gap. The material science, they're just not going to have it. That's one of the problems with that I've talked about, trying to discuss with people about starting our own group and actually building one of these warp drives. And really, all we can do for now is to run through all these old experiments and just make a kind of a historical. This is history. This is we need to kind of go through it and treat it as history and review it as history. And I think that if any of these ideas worked, it would have had a breakthrough a long time ago. But back to what Feynman was just talking about with, writing on things. These two articles on the page about metallic glass, and the one below it on no, I have another one on metallic glass that I need to put up here. I have another article, so I'm going to post that one up in a little bit. But this is a cool page on metallic glass. But I have another one that has more pictures in it. Let me find that one real quick and post that on here so that people have it. See, I'm still in the process of building this whole site out, and so this is helping me kind of find more stuff. Let's see, where's that? There's so much stuff. Here's the PDF. This is the one I want to put on there. Boom. Put that on there now. Materials, metallic glass. Come on, I know you're on here. There we go. I should just make the thing. Metallic glass. Hell yeah. I love this stuff, dude. I live for it. Anyways, so sorry for getting distracted with this. Let me just update that and post that in the chat. I'll put it, I just updated it on the website too. Sorry, I'm boring. Yeah, I gotta get Schratt back on and kind of have a discussion about all this, because I want to go really deep into his documents and some of the other documents that I've been digging up and that others have. And that's kind of what I talked a little bit. I think John Greenwald of the Black Vault might get me on his show coming up. He mentioned it, actually. He brought it up when I called into the show. He's like, I think we need to get you on for like a more in-depth discussion and kind of a debate on this. And maybe a time when I'm a little bit more well-rested and on point, because right now it's, of course, midnight, and I wake up at like 5:30 every morning, so it's like way past my bedtime. But I just stayed up because I was watching The Dark Journalist, and I was talking to a bunch of people on there, and I was like, oh, I'm going to go live after this, because he had like 1,200 people watching him, man. And I was, I'd be lucky if I get a 1% of that, right? 10% of that. I got 5% of that anyways watching me, right? So not bad. But anyways, yeah, so I want to get I don't know if Schratt can do it, because Schratt just signed. He designs all those. He does 3D AutoCAD. He's a real good AutoCAD guy, and he just signed some deal where he's working with some company, and he can't talk about certain stuff. He said, like, oh, I'll let you interview for your show and stuff, but I can't talk about certain things, because of this and that. I was like, well, all the stuff I will be probably interviewing you with, it's going to be the old stuff, so you'll probably be able to talk about all this stuff, because it's, we're going to start. I think it makes the most sense. I was talking it with a bunch of other people, and I got some good advice from a couple of people online who've reached out to me about how this needs to be done in the order of operations. And he said it makes a lot of sense to just go back and do it chronologically. I don't have this. I have this by category, of the study, different projects, different operations. But I think it would be cooler to kind of go through and do another one chronologically and kind of go through the experiments when we do them, go through them all chronologically from past to present, because that will help build the audience, educate people on the history, and also give us easier experiments to do while we're building a kind of reality TV show around it, or however we're going to sell it, because we have to sell it with some kind of entertainment package we've been talking about. And I think a reality TV show would work. We've actually been talking about it a little bit. I don't know. It seems like the right idea to do. Falcon Space, and I know enough people who are doing this in reality that I could make a really cool reality TV show out of it. It would be real, because there's real people out there doing real experiments, and pulling them all together would be really cool. I've met a lot of really interesting and cool people over the years being in this, and I've also met a lot of real stupid people that I've purposely turned off because I don't want everyone following. I don't, some people I'm just like, you don't, it's like pearls before swine. It's like, no, you lost your chance, and I don't even want you to have information. Like, you don't deserve it. But anyways, start my own podcast. I thought that this was my own podcast. It's kind of like my own podcast, right? A live stream. What do you mean? Get on like iTunes or, one of these big streaming networks and stuff. I mean, if someone wants to hook me up with some way to do that, that would be cool. But we're kind of working with this Minds TV or Minds.com studio that they have. I don't know what they have their name as now. But my buddy's Bill Ottman, and who was on Joe Rogan actually, talking about Minds.com. He's got a TV studio, and we were talking about filming it there. But we've also been talking to some other people with bigger exposure than them who are interested in this stuff. And this stuff is big right now. It's huge, and everyone got like super hyped up because they thought TTSA was gonna do it. They really did. I did too for a little bit. I'm like, are they really gonna do it? It seems like they're gonna do it. And I'm like, and then when Tom dropped that tweet about the toilet, it was just like completely over for me, dude. It was like, you hyped us all up again and then dropped the tweet about the space toilet, dude. That was like flushing all of our dreams down the toilet, even what little ones we had. But it's kind of ridiculous because to think about those 38 studies that they have, that's all they've released. I know they have more than that, because you look at all the Hal Puthoff's papers and all the stuff that he's been involved in, and some of the research that these other people have done in relation to these scientists. And that's why I think this next project too is going to be a useful tool. The chronological time scale, we'll put all the technologies on here on the top of different types of the metamaterials, inertia, like talk about these connections, and then just a timeline of when these technologies came about, when the earliest papers that we can find on all these subjects, and go like literally just start going through saying, here we'll go metamaterials, quasi-crystals, topological insulators, and just go down the line. Photonic band gap materials, all these different classes of research and types of material science and things. Go through and make a whole list, and then just research in the academic archive all the scientists that have written papers on them, and then write the dates on them too, and then write, so we'll get all the scientists on this side, all the different subjects of study on this side and fields of research, and then draw it out with the chronological time scale left to right, with like lines going through it all of when they worked on this, when they worked on that, I don't know. There's a way I saw it organized with this other thing, but anyways, I want to work on putting something like that together, because I think it will be a useful tool for seeing where the science has developed, who the scientists were. I mean, at least in the mainstream, if it's been going on by like some unnamed scientist who never really published anything in the mainstream, that has been kept like super secret for years, then I don't see what use it is to us as as being able to, unless there's some kind of replicable study that comes out or is leaked. But as far as that goes, it's like it doesn't exist. And then it's like, how did it? I don't know. There's too many questions there. But regardless of that, we are looking at, it's hard, because how do you hire a contractor to go and work on something that secret and that advanced, and have him know, he's only going to know the science of the day. He's only going to be educated by the schools of the day, you know, by the classes of the day. Even if he has access to exotic materials and alien technology, you know, if I was holding a piece of a crashed UFO in my hand back in the 50s and I had a 50s level PhD, you know, I was just graduated with my PhD in 1952, you know. You know what I'm saying? Are people following me? I want to read some of the comments here. I wish I had someone like kind of reading all this stuff. I can't wait to go. This is my favorite part, is after the show, going back and reading all the comments and stuff and seeing, you know, all the stuff that I missed. But yeah, there's Wikipedia rabbit holes for all that stuff. I've spent many hours on nights on Wikipedia just going, clicking from this thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to being like, what's this, and you just read and you learn. And there's a lot of interesting information on Wikipedia, at least as far as science goes, because it's leads to a lot of cool stuff. And I even found some very interesting like articles on Wikipedia, like in the bottom, you know. That's how I found and when I went to the Wikipedia article on polaritons, for example, that's where I found down on the bottom this article on the room temperature superfluidity in a polariton condensate. That was on Wikipedia. I never found that before. I never knew about it before, but it was on Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is not a bad source. It's a bad source to use as your only source if you do your research only on Wikipedia. But to see that you know, Wikipedia referenced papers, and to go to that sources on the bottom and then click on those papers and, you know, download those citations and save backup copies and share them with your friends and print them out, send them to your local senator. That's the kind of stuff that people need to be doing. And that's another thing. Actually, I recently have been reaching out and tagging my local senators from Rhode Island here, and tweets about TTSA or ATIP or things about, you know, the government, you know, stuff like that. I've been tagging them and sending them tweets and being like, you know, here, check this out, and if you're interested in, you know, learning more and getting more information, or where to look for information, contact me and check out my stuff. You know, I know my shit. I would love to talk to people who I'd encourage, and I would like to encourage other people in my audience to also reach out to their local government and state government. You know, just Google my local government officials and find your representative, your congressman, and start sending them information. Open up these conversations with people, but the real conversations, you know, not conversations about lights in the sky, UFOs, or aliens. It's about the science and the emerging technology, because that's why this is all going on. This is, if TTSA, like all these other people are saying, like dark journalists, is not saying, but really pointing out with a lot of clear indications, you know, the fact that they haven't done real disclosure as far as anything scientifically. That's my biggest thing, and that's what I kept hammering home on there. For me, it's the science, dude. It's like these people are connected to that through that. If you look at that picture and everything, Stephen Greer, what did he do? He formed Disclosure Project, and then he had the Orion Project. The Orion. Anyone here remember the Orion Project? All right, the Orion Project, that was like a huge thing for me when I was first getting into this back in the day. I was like, oh, this is serious. And I was trying to reach out to him and send him information, but he never got back to me. He didn't care. He was too interested in this free energy and these other anti-gravity people that were like frauds, and Tom Bearden and a bunch of these other people. And really, he said that he spent $1 million on the, if you go to the Orion Project page on Disclosure Project's website and everything, it's like, at least it did till recently. I made a video about this, you know, not a year ago or two, talking about this. But right on Disclosure Project's website, dude, it says that they wasted $1 million on that Orion Project thing, and then they gave up, or whatever. They haven't, or they need more funding or something, is basically what they said. It's like, dude, if I had $1 million in funding, I'd have produced a lot more than a stupid excuse that I need more money. And, you know, that I talked to a couple of these people, you know, like, that are all frauds. It's like, that's your own fault if you wasted $1 million and like, you didn't know what you were doing. Like, that sucks for you. You shouldn't have started Orion Project if you didn't have kind of like someone who you could trust to lead that kind of thing. I don't know. And then again, it gets you down to who the hell is leading that, and what the hell were their objectives, and what did they want to do? You know, it was just, yeah, I'm wondering that too. This John Quincy St. Clair who put all these fake patents out and stuff, man. Like, I still haven't made up my mind on that Salvatore Pace guy. He's the other guy releasing the U.S. Navy patents that have been covered on the the drive.com. So Salvatore Pace of the U.S. Navy, Salvatore Caesar Pace or Pace, I don't know how you pronounce it, but he's this scientist behind this stuff, and I haven't quite figured. I think they're disinformation because there's key things missing. They're changed, and I don't know if it's on purpose to like that they have a real patent somewhere, and this is just it is disinformation in a certain extent, but I don't know if all of it's disinformation. Like what could happen is he releases these. No one does all this research by themselves and then releases all 4 of these patents at the same time. Okay, so what's going to be is that my guess is that 2 or 3 of those patents are fake. They're completely fake. They're total disinformation and bullshit to obscure the one that's real. And the one that's real has a bunch of key little things changed so to obscure the science a little further, so that if it's ever like pulled out, which I don't know. I've kind of been going over it. That's what it seems like is going on to me, is that they want to patent something real. So what they do is they release 4 patents they release 3 other fake patents along with the real patent, and they change a couple things just to obscure it a little more. So that the real patent, I believe, is the one that is like the Tic Tac UFO. I don't believe this fusion reactor is real. I think they use a form of crystallic or linear lattice-assisted nuclear reaction, cold fusion. I don't think that they use hot fusion techniques in the craft. I've covered that. So I think that one's disinformation. It's also the first one that pops up in the Google search, and we all know that Google's run by the NSA, and they put disinformation towards the top of the search engine. So that one is most likely the disinformation one. The one that is furthest on the bottom is the UFO tech-like patent. So the piezoelectric was it room temperature superconductor one? I think that one's also, it might be based on some real science or something, but it's most likely one of the distraction ones. But not the fusion reactor. This is all I can find on there is the fusion reactor. It's not talking about the Tic Tac drive. So there's a couple things I pointed out with the Tic Tac drive that it talks that, well, not that others have pointed out and that I've kind of responded to. Others have pointed out that the Tic Tac the Salvatore Pace Tic Tac patent has it talks about virtual phonons and in a way that doesn't make sense from a physicist. They posted it on this physics forum, and this physicist kind of wrote a part about the terminology and said that this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense, and this doesn't make sense. But if you change virtual phonons to polaritons, suddenly a bunch of stuff starts to make sense. And then when you start researching all this stuff on polaritons, you're finding that yes, indeed, they're and quantum entanglement and these parametric generation of quantumly entangled pairs. It's really interesting. This simultaneous parametric down conversion, one way to create entangled pairs, and that there's all these other ways to create entangled pairs, including a lot of the research that goes on with LIGO. They have their LIGO detectors. Would be great if we could use the LIGO detectors to run some warp drive experiments to see if they produce any sort of effect, as would be predicted by some of these theories. Again, interesting stuff. Hopefully we can get the right group of people together and the right the right combination of forces working together here in the next upcoming year. Man, 2020 is going to be exciting. I feel like the simulation theory's got to be real, because it's like freaking, it feels like a game almost, man. Like living in this time with all this stuff going on, it's just so it's so far out. Again, on this page, I have a whole bunch of cool stuff. Look through here if send me any links to things I missed or point stuff out. I'm gonna be going through it too with a bunch of other friends, and adding tons of stuff to this in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned, and make sure you download copies of a lot of this stuff, in case, I don't think it's gonna disappear now. It's already out there, but it's just not well known. It's just not well talked about, not well known, especially by these people who are supposedly leading disclosure. These are the people leading disclosure. People believe these people and investing in them. Minimum investment, their minimum investment is $350. I haven't even made $350 this whole live stream. I've made $1.90. By the way, guys, super chat, it's new. You want to check to see if it's working. You can send me like $50. That would be cool. That would be awesome. And that would help me buy some better mics and better equipment for my studio here. But anyways, Christmas is coming up, so well, we'll see. I just bought myself a new work vehicle, so I'm gonna have payments on that. Yeah, there's lots of homework to do here, man. And guess what? Like, this is all the kids that are getting into TTSA and thinking this is like the biggest thing. You got a lot of homework to do. You got a lot of homework to do. Here it is. So here it is. This is what you wanted. This is what you were hungry for. That's what you came looking for. That's what TTA was teasing with you, is throwing in your face, saying, "Oh, we're going to give you this. We're going to give you this disclosure, disclosure, disclosure." Hey, or carrot on a stick, carrot on a stick. Just keep following the, further down the rabbit hole as we, and just further away from the prize, But here we are back again, the underground, the real community. The real people out there doing it that don't care what anyone thinks. People with their ignorant opinions who are just like, they believe stuff and I don't know. It's like you have to have some sense of, it's like there's two sides. You can't be like a complete and total skeptic, right? You can't be, because what happens with the total skeptics in history? You get to be like the Lord Byrons. Famous. Look up famous scientists' foot in their mouth. I don't know. Foot in their mouth. Maybe that will work, right? All the famous scientists throughout history that have won the foot in the mouth award. I'm sure there should be like probably one for every year in history of like this stupid predictions or stupid statements that people have made. I had a whole list of them with the cold fusion thing I did. It was real great. It talked about all these people that were experts in their field and made predictions they were totally wrong. It's got some weird pictures that are coming up. Oh, get rid of that. But anyways, yeah, you got your homework to do. I know there's people out there that have already done homework on this kind of stuff, and perhaps different areas that they could add to this smorgasbord. Please contact us. I think. Oh, wait a minute. I should change the email address. I gotta change this. I gotta change this contact page and stuff. But you can email me here, thealienscientist@gmail.com. It's got an email thing right there. So you can email me there at the contact us page. If you go to the contact us page, you can email me and send me whatever you have. Again, I even have stuff that I haven't put up here yet that I have either forgotten or or stuff. There's a couple things that I don't want to share just yet because it's just it gets in, like this needs to be stay. For one, it's going to stay focused on the whole anti-gravity and warp drive effect. It's not going to get into other things that, weaponizations of similar phenomenon or anything like that. So I don't want to really leak things that I'm not supposed to, or get too close to things I'm not supposed to, because this is again, I have a whole thing on the history of Hover Brothers on here too, talking about the Phoenix theory, where people can go. I got to put up the paper here though, because that's a big missing key piece. So I'm going to get that up here for us later tonight, is that CRT paper, because people always ask about that then when they're like, well, I want to learn more about this Phoenix theory thing. That paper is really cool, but I had a bunch of cool stuff related to it. It's up here and I need to move it down. So all this combinatorial space-times and combinatorial relativity theory and stuff like that, I need to move that down under Phoenix theory, because it's really connected with what Ken was talking about with that whole theory, that whole underlying theory of it's a theory of entanglement and combinatorics to explain, quantum gravity, which I think is really quite interesting, and there might be something to it. And then I have a whole section on here for not quite anti-gravity, but still cool, with some past stuff that I've talked about, and including the Biefeld-Brown effect, which is where we're going to start, I think, our whole reality TV show and reinvestigation. Biefeld-Brown's one of the easiest to do. I have the what the heck I did. Oh, I don't have the link up here. I gotta put that. In any case, yeah. See, I'm catching more stuff and doing this, and by the time, by this time, by 2020, by January 1st, I can't imagine what this thing's going to look like with all the people that are going to come out of the woodwork. And please share this with other people who you know, like, that are into this, that we can put like a good. I only want like major studies together, and it has to be like academic, military, or aerospace, and legitimate studies only. Like, it would just get too convoluted and crazy if we included everything, including, Russian guys with flying suitcase boxes coated with insect wings, insect chitin or whatever, that Grebenikov guy, or, there's all kinds of countless claims to anti-gravity. There's people that said that bismuth had a certain isotope that produced anti-gravity, and a lot of people have been saying for years, and the whole bismuth thing with that magnesium bismuth layered piece that some people said was petrified wood or slag from the smelting process of lead, or all these other things. It doesn't, regardless of whether that's slag or petrified wood, it doesn't take away from the fact that metamaterials are the future. These nano-engineered materials are the ultimate in building anything. Like, if you can build things atom by atom, there's no other better way to build anything. That's like the theoretical limit. That's kind of what. There's plenty of room at the bottom, though. That's the whole point of that Feynman lecture. If you go and watch that whole thing, it's very, very puts things in perspective to the people that think that they figured this out back in the 50s. I only found like 2 or 3 scientists that really understood the concepts behind that would lead to the eventual lead to the science that we now have of metamaterials, that we understand of metamaterials. There was only very few people that were involved in that, and then one of them was Edward Purcell. Who, of course, headed Project Rainbow, Edward Mills Purcell, this guy right here. So he was probably one of the few people who understood this stuff on a level that meant anything back then. So, but anyways, you don't hear about people like this. You hear about Bob Lazar, and he's the one. Of course, this guy's dead and can't go on Joe Rogan, but there's lots of people alive today that are doing really just as excellent work that will never break the mold, and until at least until things change. Who knows? But anyways, this is what we're working on, and we're going to try to get this thing pitched and put together. And if we get a reality TV show doing experiments and putting this whole thing, putting a lab a lab together. Well, we have a lab, but I want to basically build it to the point where it will be eventually a museum, where we can show off like, oh, here's the history of anti-gravity research, and here's when and how we figured it out, because it's really what it needs to be about at this point. This is if it's really in a pre-disclosure time period right here, as all these prophets of ufology are saying, like my good friend Ryan out there, the UFO Jesus. If we're really in this post-disclosure or pre-disclosure timeline, we really need to do everything we can to document as much of this history as possible, and get a clear timeline for future generations to go back and look at and follow. So that's kind of also what I want some help in doing. But anyways, I think we're yeah, dude. I would love to chat with all of you. We should do open calls sometime, man. That would be awesome. I gotta figure out a way to do that. Just do like open lines. Oh, all right. So I'll answer some questions. I'm reading the chat now. Jeremy, if you had unlimited funds, what would be your next step? Like my first step right now, right? If I had just unlimited funds. Jeez. If I had unlimited funds, oh jeez, that's a wicked good question. I would, yeah, because it's tough to say. I would probably build an upgraded laboratory. My first step, I'd build like a laboratory, like a whole. I'd build a complex, which has laboratory space, power equipment, all the things we need, computing, and I'd build a whole facility where people could, like a section for living quarters where people could stay for long periods of time, and so people could come fly and visit and potentially just stay there. They wouldn't need to stay at a hotel. They could stay right at our facility and work there directly. And I would buy a ton of equipment. Mostly, I would first build a clean room, a very large clean room, for building metamaterials and also quasi-crystals, nanoscale engineering stuff, especially stuff with like these metallic glasses. We could probably import a lot of the refined materials there. We wouldn't have to do any refining on site or anything like that. Maybe some smelting equipment and high temperature furnaces and a couple things of that nature. A machine shop, It'd be a decent sized facility. I mean, if I had unlimited funding, I'd build I could build, somewhere I could do as much. Or maybe I get a facility, I buy like a facility or a building close to a university that already has a lot of these equipment, already has a machine shop and already has a lot of these facilities that we could do, outsource the work to and work together with them, I'd probably do like University of Rochester, and I've been looking at a lot of their stuff. They've got a lot of interesting stuff going on over there in New York, at the University of Rochester. There's also a lot of like I don't know. It's hard to find. You know, I don't know. I'd have to do a lot of research and thinking about that. It's not something I was really ready for thinking about that. But it's a great question, man. That is a cool question. Monatomic elements are exotic. The charges hundreds of times faster than normal matter, just like white powdered gold. I don't know about that, Michael Weiss. I haven't heard about that. You can send me. Links are enabled, so you can send. You can post links. I'm pretty sure. Let me know if you can't post links. Yeah, I would do experiments on. I don't know. It's hard to say because I'd probably set up a division to do cold fusion and another research too into cold fusion, and building lattice assisted nuclear reaction lab. Because if you could build a power plant and produce energy, you could just shut down all the energy companies, and that would be huge money. When you have unlimited funding, it wouldn't matter at that point, but it might be a good first step if you had limited funding and wanted to create a mechanism to produce unlimited funding. But then again, it's like you could waste all your money in the cold fusion and not get anywhere. And it could be just as hard, high hanging fruit as the hot fusion puzzle is. You know what I mean? I don't think that, that they are able to, that they have fusion reactors, that the Navy's building fusion reactors and is patenting this stuff. It seems kind of weird. I don't think that that's what's going on. What do you think of the Joanna Miller from Physics Today? I gotta check out who she is. Is she publishing bad stuff on UFOs, or or on this stuff, or good stuff? Joanna Miller. I gotta see who that is. Joanna Miller of Physics Today. Let's see who Joanna Miller is. Here we go. Johanna L. Miller. Oh, we're emailing her. I wanted to see her bio. Let's go to about. I would have to read some of her articles and look up more of who she is, man. I'm not like, I don't know all the people that publish and follow their names, like, and all their work. I don't even know. I'm having trouble putting together a list of scientists because I don't even read their names half the time. I'm more interested in the equations and the science, so I would have to go and look into more of who she is, man. But good question. Any other questions here, guys, before I have to go? Is gold going up? We should buy a bunch of gold now. Quantum physics and crystals? Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to check out some of her articles, man. There's enough in the academic community about crystals and waves. Oh, where's that paper that I had just shown a cool paper that I think I brought it up. Where's the one? I got so much cool stuff up. All these links again are in the are on that page, the Hover Brothers page. It was on, again, someone posted this on Twitter. One of these guys I follow, he's a metamaterials and optics friggin' expert. And these are all my pictures, tweets and replies. The optics expert. That's gonna be on my timeline. See, come on, come on, come on, come on. Where is it? I saw it before when we were going through. Is that it? No. These two are cool. These 2D cluster arrays and these blankets of light for quantum computers. Very interesting, and not just for quantum computers. This is warp drive too. It's like one and the same. It's just different applications of this new technology. Here's the timeline I was talking about. This is the timeline of ufology manipulation. I want to make sure I save that too, just so I have it. And this is the article right here. Oh, so freaking cool. I gotta share this with people. But look at this. This shows you how an optical, it's optical circuitry. It shows you how to build it, man. This guy did it. He finally cracked it. He's the first one. I talked about this years ago that you could do this, and no one could figure out and show like a real way how to do it, simulate it. But this guy did. He figured it out. He's got some switches in here and shows how it will work. And then he's got the math and the equations to back it up to show it. You guys hear me? Yeah. Yeah, guys. Oh, hey. Jeremiah's here too. Hey, check out the page that I'm putting together with all this stuff. I gotta post this link up there too, to this page, because this is really, really key stuff. This is like the circuitry. The next step is to take this whole topology puzzle and the equations, and then to build it with crystals. That's the next big step. So it's coming. Believe that it's coming. This is huge. That's bigger than anything that has come out of TTSA in the past 2 years. But anyways, yeah, the U.S. government can't classify foreign and other scientific research and innovation, and it can't be hidden for long. Only ignorance, only people who are ignorant to this stuff existing and really like not paying attention or having just such a short attention span that they can't sit through and read. You know, this is a lot of reading, but it's really interesting stuff. If you know, I mean, for me it is. I don't know, like for me it's more interesting than any of the stupid gossip or discussions or chats and anything that TTSA is releasing or talking about. This stuff's more interesting. Learning about this because it's real. It's definitely real. It's not a debate over is it real or not. Is this it's real stuff. This is all real stuff, you know. So again, it is. It's about it. They can't classify this stuff. This is public domain. It's out of the box. It's not going back in the box. You know, and you know, there's stuff that's still in the box that is not out of the box yet. A lot of stuff. Believe that. But we're putting everything that's out of the box together, and everything that continues to jump out of the box will be added here, and hopefully this will provide a blueprint or a path for you know, if we don't do it with Hubbard Brothers in our laboratory in the next couple of years, then hopefully some of the young kids watching this that decided, hey, like this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go to school and become an engineer or a physicist. I'm hoping that if we don't do it, then one of you guys will. That's all I can hope for. I love seeing all the emails and people that reach out and come back to me and say that, hey, I've been watching you for 10 years since I was like 13. I'm 23 now, and man, I'm friggin' I got a degree in physics, and I'm a junior in engineering, electrical engineering at blah blah blah, and you're the reason I got into this. I just want to say thanks, or like You know, you really made me think about the world differently and certain things, and that's good, man, because the old ways of thinking and the same ways of thinking, it's not going to get us anywhere. It's not going to, you know, you're going to be one of the Lord Baron von Kelvins of history and not a Nicholas Copernicus or a Galileo. You're not going to be one of these groundbreakers. You're just going to be one of these old farts, stubborn old farts. Really, really. And anyways, I'm getting tired here, guys. I want to get going to bed. It's way past my bedtime. I got a lot of work to do tomorrow. Fix my car, sell it, and a bunch of other stuff I gotta get ready for the weekend. And so anyways, thank you guys for watching. Tomorrow's another day. We got plenty of time. You know, we're gonna do this together. Anyways, I'm reading more comments. I gotta go read this afterward while I'm done. I have more focus, and I'll read them in the morning when I'm more rested. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Again, stay tuned to my channel. Check out what these other guys are saying about TTSA as well, the dark journalists and the Black Vault. Both these guys. There's a lot of other people out there that are really like putting the pieces together, or waking up, and there's a lot of other people that are really stubborn and still like, you know, I'm not sure, and they're still hopeful and still remaining, you know, steadfast in their ways. But really, it's about the technology more than anything, and it's not just preparing. It's preparing people because it's weird because there's people that don't believe in this stuff. They think it's all hogwash, and then there's people like me that really have believed in it their whole life and want it bad. And it's going to be interesting once it does happen, and how that happens. We're going to live through it. That's the most amazing part, is it's happening right now, and we get to live through it and watch it. So stay tuned. Lots more interesting stuff to come. Guys, thanks again, and have a good night tonight. Peace out. Alien Scientist out. Good night, guys.